The college football playoff rankings, edition number 1, are out. Let's get to the rankings and take your calls. I left the link there in the chat, and I will continue to leave it there in the chat to make it as accessible as possible, even though I failed and forgot, as I typically do, to leave the link in the description section of the video. So please, I understand that a number of you do this on a fairly regular basis, so I do appreciate those of you who will copy and paste the link and drop it in the chat a number of times so people can jump on here and find the link pretty accessible. Let's get to the rankings. And again, the Amazon link in the description section of the video as well. The most important link, the Amazon link in the description section of this video and all the videos. When you shop on Amazon, please use the link that we provide. All right, let's get to the rankings. I have not even seen these yet. Here we go. So these are, of course, the playoff rankings. And just like that, the Coaches Poll and the AP rankings are suddenly obsolete. At number 25 is Tennessee. 24 is Pitt. 23, Washington. 22 is Mizzou. Michigan at 21. Iowa at 20. USC at 19. Miami's number 18. Georgia Tech at 17, Vandy's at 16, number 15 is Louisville, Virginia at 14, Utah at 13, Oklahoma 12, Texas 11. Top 10, Notre Dame, Oregon, Texas Tech, BYU at 7, Ole Miss at 6, top 5, Georgia, Alabama, Texas A&M, Indiana, Ohio State. So quickly, before we take our first call, we will point out that they honored head-to-head Alabama over Georgia, honored it with Georgia over Ole Miss. Did not honor it with Notre Dame at number 10, same record as Miami, number 18. Of course, the Canes won the game on the final play of the game at Hard Rock. We've got Texas over Oklahoma. They've got the same record. Texas won over OU by 17. We also have Virginia at 14. They honor the head-to-head. Virginia won in overtime at Louisville. Georgia Tech, who knows where they would have been, but they just lost NC State, a 5-4 football team. They came into the game 4-4. So Georgia Tech loses that, and they dropped to 17. Of course, Miami, who knows where they would have been at 6-1. Let's say 7-1 with a win against SMU, but they fall. And interesting to try to distinguish USC, Iowa, and Michigan, all teams in the Big Ten. They honor USC's win against Michigan. That was a dominant win at the Coliseum by the Trojans over Michigan. USC and Iowa play in a couple weeks. Always interesting. I don't know necessarily that we can play this game quite yet. We may have to wait a week, maybe 2 weeks before we can start to make an evaluation. Okay, who is the lowest ranked team that could possibly make the playoff? And then play the inverse game of who's the highest ranked team that probably can't make the playoff. Obviously, everybody at this point, outside of, you would say Tennessee would be the one team in all of this that appear to have a extremely long shot of making the college football playoff because everybody else has 2 losses. Tennessee is the highest ranked 3-loss team in America. That is highly questionable as well. Let me do this real quick before I take calls. Let me compare this to what I've got, because this should be a direct correlation, because I do a resume ranking, and this is supposed to be, I don't want to say 100% about resume for the College Football Playoff Committee, because they do make judgment calls based on eyeball test and look at teams' health later in the season. I doubt if they're looking at health of teams right this second, but they will start to factor that in. I've got Pitt at 25. They're at 24. I've got Cincinnati at 24. They're unranked. I've got Georgia Tech at 23. They've got them at 17. I've got Washington at 22. They've got them at 23. My rankings, the top 25 that actually makes sense. Utah at 21. They've got them at 13. They've got Michigan at 20. I've got Michigan at 20. They've got them at 21. I've got USC at 19. They've got USC at 19. I've got Iowa 18. The committee's got Iowa at 20. I've got Mizzou at 17. They've got them at 22. I've got Notre Dame at 16. They've got Notre Dame, I believe, up at 10. I've got Miami at 15. They've got Miami at 18. I'm honoring head-to-head there. I've got Louisville at 14. They've got Louisville at 15. I've got Virginia at 13. They've got them at 14. I've got Texas Tech at 12. They've got them at 8. I've got Oklahoma at 11. They've got them at 12. I've got I've got Vandy at 10. They've got Vanderbilt at 16. I've got Texas at 9. They've got Texas at 11. I've got BYU at 8. They've got BYU at 7. I've got Oregon 7. They've got the Ducks at 9. I've got Ole Miss at 6. They've got the Rebels at 6. I've got Georgia 5. They do as well. I've got Bama 4. They do as well. I've got Ohio State at 3. They've got the Buckeyes number 1. I've got Texas A&M number 2. They've got them 3. And then I've got Indiana at number 1. They've got the Hoosiers at number 2. So if the season ended right this second, we do not have a group of 5 in the top 25. So who knows who they would grab at this point. It obviously doesn't much matter because there is so much to be decided there for sure. So much to be decided, period, but especially in the group of 5 because there's only one slot. But right now, we would have the Big 12 champion. Let's say BYU wins the Big 12. Regardless, BYU's in, and there would be those top 11 would make the college football playoff. So the SEC would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the Big 10 would have 3. The Big 12 with 2, and the ACC, well, you would have to let in the ACC 1. So the ACC would be, let's say Virginia wins the ACC, that would knock out Texas. Again, that's just so preliminary. All right, let's get right to it. We got Hall of Fame Trey stopping by. Trey, what's going on?
What's up, man? I haven't looked at the rankings till now, and it's gonna be my raw reaction.
Oh, I thought I was showing them. I apologize.
No.
I thought I was showing them the whole time.
No, I'm talking about both. But
there they are. My bad, everyone. I thought I was showing them the whole time. I couldn't see the screen. I was working with the rankings. My bad.
It's all good. This is the first time I've been looking at them, and I can see a little bit consistency, but I see some flaws here.
Okay.
And the first one, I say Oregon. Oregon is number 9. I want to put them a little bit lower, especially the last 2 or 3 weeks. They haven't been the same Oregon as we thought they would when they destroyed Oklahoma State. We know how bad they are, but they haven't showed that since the Penn State game. And you know how Penn State looks right now. I would have if I would have known what they were before the last couple weeks after James Franklin firing, I would be alarmed. Now we kind of see this is not the same Oregon team. This Indiana completely destroyed them, like you said, and now I'm more convinced than ever.
Well, Indiana did not completely destroy Oregon. Let's back off.
In all phases of the game, the score
completely destroy them.
They
won 30 to 20.
They looked the score.
They won by 10 points. They were up by 3 points in the fourth quarter. That is not destroying somebody.
I'm talking about
they did not destroy them.
The score didn't.
Trey, get yourself a dictionary and look up the word destroy.
They have dominated them.
You can say they played better. They outplayed them decisively. All those things. They did not destroy them. If they destroyed them, then 95% of the games in America every Saturday are just complete destructions. Okay. Proceed.
Well, I'll use the wrong word then. Oh, they outplayed them.
There you go.
There you go. They have outplayed them in all 3 phases of the game, and this is not the same Oregon team. Indiana deserved to win, like you said a couple weeks ago, and I agree now. I think Oregon should have been number 11. Number 11. I think Notre Dame is better than Oregon. They have been really hot lately. Oregon has sizzled out, and I don't think Oregon's going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to lose to Iowa. They're going to lose to Iowa. Iowa's really, really, really hot right now, and Notre Dame is really hot. So watch out for Notre Dame. I think they can make the playoffs by themselves. They can win out and no more hiccups. I think they should be fine. I would put Oklahoma over Texas, but they honored head-to-head. But who looked more better, Oklahoma or Texas? They both, sizzled out. So that don't really bother me.
You would rank Oklahoma above Texas.
Yes. Despite head-to-head.
Losing by 17 points. Getting destroyed. Now, you want to talk about getting destroyed? Matter? I'll use that term there. If you want to use the term destroyed, that was a much more decisive win than Indiana over Oregon.
Now, the injuries matter, don't they? The injuries matter.
Oh, are we going to pick apart every team in America? See, this is where if the committee wants to start to dig into injuries, which that's part of their criteria, then they really need to do an exhaustive job and not just look at, a quarterback's hurt.
Yeah, so, because they did that to FSU versus Georgia. Listen, I was all good with FSU not making the playoffs that year because without Jordan Travis, they were crap, and when Jordan Travis, they were crap, and they had a sorry schedule. That was absolutely right. But Oklahoma had John Minter he was not 100%. That was completely obvious. Now, if he was 100%, this game would have gone a totally different way.
Yeah, in my opinion. Know that.
But we don't know that. You're right, though. But I think it would go completely different way, though. You got to admit the idea of it. And now I'm looking more to it. And you say you would put Texas Tech at number 12 or 11?
Yeah, I've got them at 12, I believe.
That is very interesting. Can you give me an explanation of that?
Can I give you an explanation? Well, Texas Tech's loss was to Arizona State.
Yep.
So Texas Tech's best win would be Utah. They got an impressive win against Utah. Other than that, I really can't vouch for any Texas Tech wins. They beat Houston, Kansas, Oklahoma State, Oregon State, K-State last week, who's a 4-5 football team. That's their second best win.
Beating Utah was a big win, exactly what you said, but you're right, though. I think their schedule does not play the part of what they really are as a great team. I think their schedule holding them back. I think they're a great team. They can make a lot of noise in the playoffs, Mark. I would if I was going, I wouldn't say as high as 8, but I wouldn't put them low as 12. I would put them 9 or 10.
Okay.
To make it more fair,
Yeah, I'm going to rank those SEC schedules to be significantly stronger Texas, Vandy, Oklahoma than Texas Tech, and that's why they're back where they are.
I want to know, why did they punish Georgia Tech so severely?
Oh, I punished them more than that.
Oh, y'all are terrible. Man, hold on now. North Carolina State has been hot.
Good Lord.
Wait, hold on now.
No.
Now,
they lost to North Carolina State by 12 points. No.
Now, they've been hot. Now you can't say, you look at the past, the BCS and the playoffs, somebody had a hiccup along the way. We all had
a hiccup, but they had a hiccup. Typically, if you look at the course of the 4-team college football playoff, those teams, first of all, they only lost one game, and they typically lost to an extremely difficult opponent. Georgia Tech just has their best win is Duke by far. They don't have a second win that's worth much of anything. Nothing. Wake, Temple, Syracuse, Clemson, Colorado. Yuck.
I mean, yeah, you're right, though. Clemson was a little bit better than would have been better. You're right, though. Duke, I want to know, why is Duke not ranked?
So Duke's got 3 losses. They lost to Tulane. They lost to Illinois by 4 scores. They lost. If Duke gets, what is Duke right now? 5-3, correct?
Yeah, I think they're top of they're top of the ACC.
Yeah, if Duke gets ranked, Illinois needs to be ranked ahead of them.
What? No, hold on. We talked about Indiana destroying
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Illinois.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Indiana destroyed
Did you miss
Illinois.
something here, Trey? Illinois played Duke. Illinois is 6-3. Duke is 5-3. Illinois plays in a much better conference. Illinois beat not only Duke by four scores. They beat them by 4 scores on the road. And you're telling me that Duke should be ranked higher than Illinois?
Wait, hold on.
They
This
beat
was
by
earlier in
4
the year.
scores on the road.
This is earlier in the year, Mark.
I don't care. Oh, earlier in the year doesn't count. When does the season start, Trey?
Around August 31st.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I thought you were going to say like October 15th or something. You said,
No.
"Oh, it's early in the year."
It
Yeah.
was early in the year.
Who cares when it was? Oh, are we waiting the games from last weekend more than the weekend before, But Trey, give me just a little bit of logic here, just a little bit of reason. Illinois 6-3, Duke's 5-3. Illinois plays in a much better league. They beat them by 4 scores. It's not like they beat them on a scoop and score with 13 seconds left in the game. They beat them by 4 scores. What is Duke's best win? Give me Duke's best win.
Duke's best win? Let's see.
Yeah.
They beat Cal.
Okay. Yeah.
They did beat NC State. That's
Exactly.
not good. They beat Georgia Tech. But they almost beat Tulane, and they did
beat
not.
who?
They almost beat.
Oh, they almost beat.
Yeah,
Georgia
there you
Tech.
go.
Illinois beat USC. There's no comparison between those. Illinois should be 10 spots above Duke. There's no comparison between those two teams. Okay, let's not sit here for 20 minutes talking about two teams that aren't even ranked.
This is true.
All right. Okay, you got 30 seconds. What's your last point?
Can we say this? That what happens if Duke somehow goes to the ACC championship?
What do you mean? What happens?
Like, think about it. Imagine they win. They might not happen.
They probably take a bus from where they're located.
Yeah, but think about it this way.
Yeah, they go to the game, they play it.
Think about it this way. What happens? I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't think so. But imagine they do go to the ACC championship and they beat either Georgia Tech or Louisville or Virginia or whatever, and they somehow gets in the playoffs. Do you think they deserve it? Based on just if you take out the ACC championship, do you think they would deserve it? Besides that, even though the criteria says conference champions, would you think like it shouldn't be like for conference champions, and just in that case, kind of like an 8-4 team somehow snuck in the playoffs by just being a conference champion?
Why do we have conferences?
Huh?
Why would we have conferences? Why would we have something called a championship game? Yes, they would have earned it.
But don't you think they would kick out a 10-2 better team? Though
they would be the ACC champions. They should be in the playoff, in a 12-team playoff. Absolutely. I don't care if they go 5-3 in the ACC and there is like a 6-way tie for first place and they somehow make it to the championship game and they lost all their non-conference games and they're 5-7 and they go to the ACC championship game and they win it. They belong in the playoff.
But don't. Yes, they deserve to be in the playoff, just being a conference champion. But they will bump somebody out that's like deserving. Okay. I mean, it'd be kind of awkward.
If a team gets bumped out as the 12 seed, they've got nothing to complain about.
Got a point here.
All right, Trey. Appreciate you being here.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Trey. Trey's an interesting one. But yeah, I'm not arguing. First of all, what are we doing? Arguing Illinois and Duke. They're not even in the rankings. Secondly, what are we doing arguing Illinois and Duke? All right. Rob, stop it.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I am doing
just fine. How are you? I'm pretty good. Excuse me.
Reverb here. Some way correct. Like looping all over the place.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't have anything on in the background. Hang on. Let me see something. Is that better?
Yeah.
It is?
It's massive echo.
Huh. Okay. Is it still going?
Yes.
All right. I can drop off and I'm not sure what the cause of this is. So.
Okay.
We'll give it another shot.
All right. Yep.
Thanks,
Sorry
Bob.
about that. Yep.
No problem. The real MVP stopping by. The real, what's going on?
These rankings tell us a lot, Mark. I'll just be quick in order. Notre Dame, 10, ridiculous, absurd, makes no logical sense, no defense possible. They're 6-2. They lost to Miami. I understand they didn't even play well recently. Did you see their game against Boston College? They were awful.
Score, sure. Yeah.
They were awful, legitimately terrible in that game. No logical reason for them to be 8 spots ahead of Miami. Doesn't make any sense. So what's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that's we would have to have just really egregious results for a team to have the same record as another team and be ranked 8 spots above them. And we don't have those. Like if Notre Dame just had some crazy, ridiculous, difficult schedule.
Like Miami?
Like if they had knocked off all these other teams and then they had the loss against Miami, considering it was last play of the game, walk-off field goal, then I still don't like it. But Notre Dame's best win is USC. Where's their second best win? What do we got? We've got
their second best win's going to be against Pitt at the end of the season. Their third best win's going to be against Navy. Fourth is Boise State. Fifth is Arkansas.
Right now, their second best wins against, I guess, NC State's 5-4.
Boise State, Arkansas, or NC State. That's your second best win.
Yeah, that's their second best win. So yeah, it is. I do think that Notre Dame might be that good, but
I do too.
We should be ranking teams based on how good we think they might be. Their resume is just not strong, and their losses are their resume is built on their losses.
Right, which is something I'm not a fan of, in particular. You got to beat teams, in my opinion. Utah at 13 seems a bit high to me, as well. The only 2 teams they've played who are good teams in Texas Tech, BYU, they lost to, but being ahead, especially at 2 losses, ahead of some of those other teams. I put them closer to the USC Iowa tier than the Oklahoma Texas tier. I don't understand that.
I don't know how you don't rank Vanderbilt above Utah.
Right.
I've got Vandy at number 10 in the country. They just lost to Texas by a field goal. They really played one bad half of football other than that. Against Alabama, a really close game. Then they got kind of blown out in the fourth quarter, lost by 16. Of course, they've got some really good wins. Yeah. Right.
To me, this ranking says the ACC one bid conference. Their best team is number 14 in the country. It's just too much ahead of them for any of those teams. They're a one big league. We can stop the 2, 3, 4 team discussion with the ACC.
Yeah, according to what the committee is lined up, because none of them have anybody in their path. It would almost be better if somebody had, let's take Georgia Tech, for example, by playing, let's say if they had Miami still left to go and had Georgia outside the conference, that would be one thing, but nobody has an in-conference schedule that's going to help them toward going past, a championship. One team.
Right. And the committee does rank all the way up to the group of 5 team. They've said that on ESPN. Memphis is the current G5 representative as an unranked team.
Did they say where they're ranked?
Nope. It's NR is what it's listed as. So we don't know where they're ranked, but they do continue ranking. So that means they could be 26, 51, 75. We don't know.
Yeah.
But it is Memphis.
All right.
Mark, for the SEC, looks beautiful. Looks like 5 or 6 as usual, because with BYU, Texas Tech playing each other, you would assume or guess, especially if Texas Tech were to lose that game, they would have 2 losses. And with the amount of wins Texas and Oklahoma have, they would climb up above them. I still think the highest team that you said that doesn't control their destiny is Utah, obviously. If Utah wins out at 2 losses as a in the Big 12, especially if they're the 3rd place Big 12 team, they're not getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, so isn't the best case scenario for the Big 12 is to have BYU go undefeated and then Texas Tech beat them in a rematch in the championship game?
Yeah, that's their only path. That's
Or
their
somebody.
only path to getting to, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then I believe Notre Dame could be that Florida State 2023 team where they're ranked super high, higher than we expect, and then at the end of the season they come crashing just below the cutoff line. Because look at Texas, Oklahoma, the teams behind them, they
Yes.
just have more opportunities to get big wins.
Yeah.
Whereas Pittsburgh is probably going to be unranked when Notre Dame plays them because they're 24 and they got to play Georgia Tech, Miami, and Notre Dame. So they'll probably finish 7-5. So that's the team that's looking like to get screwed over.
Yeah, you're bringing up a good point here because a lot of people just have an old mentality, and I think a lot of people are starting to get shaken out of this. That basically, if you claim your stake, if you stake your ground at a particular place, especially if it's in the top 10 or close to number one, then you're not budging as long as you win. But yeah, Notre Dame's resume is going to. So they got Navy this week. That's going to do very little for them, even though Navy's a decent team with only one loss.
Then they're not even the highest ranked G5 team currently. We know that according to the
exactly. Then a trip to Pitt. We know that Pitt's 25 in their rankings?
24.
24. So that's gonna be okay. And then Syracuse, Stanford going to do absolutely nothing for them, but possibly hurt them if they play like they did against Boston College. Whereas to your point, they're just going to be, there's going to be a much higher possibility of losses for those teams, but they're also going to have the opportunity to win those games. So who in particular are we looking at? Maybe, like you mentioned, Texas. Okay, Texas, Oklahoma, of course, right behind them. Yeah.
Also, if you're a Big Ten fan, rough night for you, Mark. Big Ten man, down bad probably. Oregon at 9, that's a big signal to the playoff committee that if they lose another game, they're dropping.
Yes.
Because they're behind 2 Big 12 teams right now, and one of them has the same number of losses. Like, that's bad, Mark. They're in a bad way.
Well, they're in a bad way if they lose, but we also can see that there's certain, well, obviously if they're 11-1, they're in. But you think, let's see, 10-2, either Iowa or USC would be a respectable loss to some degree. They're in the 19-20 range.
Right, but they would be placed behind Texas, Oklahoma. I'm assuming if Vanderbilt goes 10-2, they would be placed behind them, but they would probably be in the 13-14. They would be one of the first 2 teams out, in my opinion, at 10-2.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm just trying to get a good feel for between Texas, Oklahoma, Vandy, looking at these schedules, because that's pretty much the bubble tier for the SEC.
And some of these teams at the bottom for the Big Ten and SEC as well is going to filter out because they all start playing one another. So the bottom of the list is going to be pretty fluid, in my opinion, every single week. So ironically, Oregon's schedule is all ranked teams from here to the end of the season with USC, Iowa, Washington. But I think Washington's going to fall out in the rankings. Iowa has a strong chance to fall out the rankings if they lose a game or two. And so I think only one of them, maybe max 2 of the teams that Oregon plays for the remaining of the season is going to finish ranked.
Well, this 7 to 8 spot gap, this is exactly what we've been talking about and focusing on in this SEC Big Ten debate for weeks. Texas at 11, Oklahoma at 12, Vandy at 16. All the same record, 7-2, as USC, Iowa, Michigan, 6-2 basically, but the same record virtually. USC, Iowa, Michigan, 19, 20, 21, 7 to 8 spots behind, and they can only blame themselves because what do those 3 teams in the Big Ten have in common? They went outside the conference and they lost.
Yeah. It's almost like you have to win the games on the field to be moved up in the rankings, Mark.
Yeah, it's just, it's a direct, basically, I don't even know if. Yeah, it's basically just saying that the SEC went out and won these games, and specifically the teams that needed them that are on the fringe, and the Big Ten did not. So USC, Iowa, Michigan, boy, those three teams, without there being anything different going on within the Big Ten, going out and beating Notre Dame, Iowa State, and Oklahoma would completely change this. And USC at 7-1, Iowa 7-1, Michigan 7-1. Those teams would be ranked 7th, 8th, 9th in the country, somewhere in that range right now.
Yep. I completely agree with you. So do you generally agree with me then that it's setting up for a 5 or even 6 team SEC, and the Big Ten's at 3-2 as their range? Like, I think this ranking shows to me Big 12 could get 1 or 2. I think 2 is much more likely now than an hour ago. And I think the Big Ten getting 2 is much more likely than an hour ago now as well.
Yeah, it just seems to be very clear cut that Oregon holds the Big Ten hopes, obviously, for the 3rd spot. And that's tenuous because they've got difficult games in front of them. Whereas, boy, to make that jump to the top 11 for
right now would be 10, by the way. It's not 11, it's 10 because
they'd have to go to 10. Yeah, because of the ACC champion being outside the top 12 and the G5. Yes. So yeah, to make that jump, USC, Iowa, Michigan have to jump 9, 10, and 11 spots. And
not happening.
And again, you've got this issue with Iowa and USC playing, and USC and Oregon playing, and Iowa and Oregon playing. So it's not like they can beat up on what would appear to be okay wins, like Washington and Illinois, let's say. Those kind of games where they don't get in each other's way, but they get some cred for beating decent teams. They don't have that. It's not as good scheduling mix for the Big Ten. And again, got to win the 9 conference games.
Yeah, and the final thing I'll ask you is, do you suspect there being a pretty sizable gap between 13 and 14 or 12 and 13? Because, like, if Oklahoma and Texas lose another game, I don't see them falling below all those ACC teams.
Well, yeah, the quality of the loss. So let's say Texas goes out and loses to Georgia. That's their next game, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. They win a close game, or they lose a close game against Georgia. So you're saying a 7-3 Texas in this case doesn't fall behind a 1-loss Virginia Louisville?
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
If we're evaluating these teams correctly based on performance, and Georgia's the number 5 team or whatever they are, number 5 team in the country, and Texas going to Georgia loses by a field goal. Again, I go back to, and I want teams to win games to earn spots. But if we're clearly evaluating teams, Texas going out and playing within a field goal of the number 5 team in the country on the road is a better performance to me than Virginia beating Wake Forest by a touchdown.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
It just is.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing you and Rob go back and forth, because Rob's been in the chat talking about how Notre Dame is going to be in the playoff for sure since they're at 10, and how they obviously deserve this ranking because they're hot. So I look forward to that, Mark. Have a good one.
Thanks to Real. I will have to credit to Real for one thing in particular. I have admitted a number of times I'm not as deep into this as I typically am. And on top of this, working with it all day and shooting videos and slicing and dicing, because my days have been filled with work outside of this industry. So, I'm giving this a look. And obviously, I'm not talking about the playoff rankings that we all see at the same time be revealed, but I'm dealing with this. Like, if you look at past seasons where I'm producing videos and breaking different scenarios down and working with this pretty much all day and not doing that at this point. So do appreciate the reel because he stays on top of this business. Okay, we've got Muley stopping by, and I want to encourage everyone to please use the Amazon link if you care anything about this channel, care anything about us talking college football on a regular basis, then please grab the Amazon link and please use it, because basically you go to Amazon, most of you, and you shop at Amazon, and using our link is absolutely no different. I guarantee it. I have sat next to people, 20 people at least, friends, family, etc., and saw them use the Amazon link that we provide. It's the same exact thing. It suddenly pops up their account instantaneously. So when you shop on Amazon, please use the link that we provide. Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App are the best way to contribute to the Voice of College Football as well. All right, we've got Muley stopping by. Muley, what's going on?
What's going on, Mark?
There are the rankings.
Let's just go ahead and say this, and let's give credit where credit's due. I think this is a much better ranking than the AP. Compared to a lot of the complaints that I've been seeing. This is much better than based on what I've been seeing compared to the AP. Now, the main thing that people are going to talk about. Let's get into it. Notre Dame at 10 and Miami at 18. So, what do you think is the reasoning? Because I've been seeing the thing about Notre Dame playing their best football right now versus Miami. They're trending downwards, which I guess you can say that, and I guess that holds some validity. But at what point does the head-to-head matter? Because I'm going to go ahead and say I think there are plenty of scenarios where you can't honor the head-to-head. Like a couple weeks ago, I had Miami over Louisville over Virginia, right? But now that it's played out a little bit, it's not the case. However, there's two things I can look at it. One is the argument I've given to you about Miami trending downwards, but two, the committee thinks the SMU loss was a bad loss, which, if that's the case, I don't think that was a bad loss. I don't think SMU is a particularly great or good team. I wouldn't have them in my top 30, but to say that this is a bad loss for Miami,
it's a bad loss.
You think it's a bad loss?
Well, they didn't lose to the worst team in the country, but we're talking about playoff teams. We're talking about trying to determine the 11 best teams in the country. That's a bad loss. Is SMU some horrible team? Absolutely not. They're a decent team, but playoff teams should not be losing to decent teams, and losing to decent teams now 2 times in 3 weeks. So True. I agree with you that I hold to the head-to-head as long as I possibly can, because I think it's just so important. If we have 2 teams, let's say, that are 8-2 playing major college football, and they actually played, that the result is so heavy. However, I've noticed in my own rankings that sometimes that comes in the way of properly ranking other teams, because it creates this log jam that everybody has to get in line behind one team because of one game that was 31-30, and somebody obviously won the game and they should get credit for that. But that creates this log jam of all these teams that have to sit behind that might have better resumes than that particular team. You mentioned that game being the first game of the season, and that this brings up a great debate. Are we ranking the best teams for the entirety of the season, or are we ranking the best teams right today? We believe that these are the best teams in order today, or these are the resumes. Because I got to tell you that if Miami just beat Notre Dame last weekend and they were both 6-2, that ranking would look a lot different than it does now.
That's a very fair point. And to add on to that, why I think I don't think they're completely disregarding the early season results, but the fact that I'll go ahead and say like Pittsburgh being ranked. If you just look at a pure resume standpoint, they don't have any big wins. However, it's clear that once they have put Heinschel at quarterback, they replace Holstein.
Yeah.
They've been blowing out teams outside of Florida State. Pittsburgh has been blowing out a lot of teams and have been looking really good. But if we're just looking at a pure resume standpoint, I could argue maybe Pittsburgh isn't a top 25 team, you know?
Yeah, and I got to say, for as much as I agree with everything that you just said, I only have Pitt one spot lower than the committee, and I'm looking at their resume, and it's not impressive at all. Their best win has to be, from a record standpoint, it's NC State, who just beat Georgia Tech to go to 5-4. But that's their best win. A West Virginia loss is terrible.
Terrible.
Lost to them by a touchdown. Now, again, do I think that would be viewed differently if that would have been last weekend? Yes. They had a 10-point lead against Louisville at home. They blew it, but they obviously played a very close game against the number, whatever they are, 15 team in the country. But yeah, it's not a very impressive resume. You know, you could stack up a lot of teams, and this is why it's difficult to rank teams. Illinois could be there. Also, there's a group of 5 teams at the top of the American Conference could be there. You know, who else are we thinking of that could be just outside of the top 25 that's just as good and has a resume? Again, I think Illinois, they just I don't know. They beat USC in the last play of the game. They beat Duke by 4 scores. Washington's not ranked, correct?
No, they're ranked. I think they're. If you scroll down, I'm pretty sure they were 23, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
it starts to thin out quite a bit, and it's difficult. Basically, the last few teams, and I bet we could go back years and years and years to the first committee rankings, the first couple weeks, and the last few teams are usually they're teams out of the ACC or maybe the Big 12 that they have a nice record. And really, they were just able to kind of hold serve and have a 7-2 type record, but they really didn't beat anyone. You could make an argument for Cincinnati. Maybe if they would have played closer against Utah, they'd be 7-2 right now. If Houston would have won last weekend, they'd be 8-1, but they didn't. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually what was going to lead into my last point, which was about the Big 10. I mean, the Big 12 as a whole, where I'm actually very happy that the committee even put a 3-loss team over these 2-loss teams, because it's for these Big 12 teams. Because my thing is, yeah, obviously there's disparity in conferences, but my thing is at least play the good teams in your conference, at least have some wins over there, because Cincinnati and Houston have been coasting against the bottom of their conference. And when they have played good teams, Cincinnati has a loss. I mean, it was a close loss and it was on the road, but to Nebraska. And then now the other good team they played, they got blown out. Houston just lost to West Virginia. Horrible loss by double scores. They had 4 turnovers. I get that, but you don't lose to West Virginia. And yeah, so and outside of that, they had a 35-11 loss to Texas Tech. I'm not looking at it, but off the top of my head, like, what have those teams done? And I'm happy that they unranked these teams, because they simply haven't done anything. I would rather have an Illinois team who, yes, got beaten pretty badly in their 3 losses. I mean, but to number 1 and 2, and they at least have a ranked win against a top 20 team. So, yeah, I think that's going to really, if they keep winning, that might hurt the Big Ten in a way, unless I don't know what the rest of their schedule is. If they went ahead and beat these other teams like a Texas Tech, even an Arizona State or whatnot, then it will help. But also, what's getting really wonky with the Big Ten is in a lot of critical games, we've seen key injuries to skilled players. We've seen Arizona State having Levitt and Jordan Tyson in and out. Texas Tech, they were without their starting quarterback when they lost to Arizona State. who else? Devin. I'm not sure about Utah. I know Devin Dampier had some injuries and whatnot, but now we're getting kind of these wonky results because we're getting key injuries, and not only that, off the top, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but there have been some injuries to also line play and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's kind of concerning for the Big 12. But yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out. I mean, yeah.
Utah probably has a larger string of blowout wins than just about anyone. They beat Cincinnati by 31 last weekend. They beat UCLA by 29, West Virginia 34, Arizona State 35. So in terms of power conference wins, let's see, they're 3, 4, 5, 6. They're 4 and 2, I believe. In the they're 7-2 now. I'm missing a win there, but anyway, they basically have blowout wins across the board.
And a lot of metrics from what I've seen have Utah. A lot of like computer models have Utah really high. They have teams like Utah and Vandy really high because they do blow out these teams at these lesser competitions.
All right, sir. Anything else tonight?
That's all for me. Thank you so much, Mark.
Of course, Muley. Have a good one.
You too.
Good to hear from some of the standbys by Muley, who's been calling for a number of years. All right, I think we got some more Notre Dame talk headed our way. Will ND stopping by. Will, what's going on?
Hey, Mark.
People don't like your team.
People don't like my team. I mean, listen, I'll say this. A lot of this reminds me of when they left Florida State out in 2023 because like they thought hypothetically that Bama would do better than them and they did. And I think that's probably what's going on here.
Well,
something with Mario Cristobal in Miami. Like I feel like their team, I don't know if it's his intense coaching style, but like they start off well and then they fade. And I feel like that's what the committee is looking at, why it has Notre Dame ranked ahead of Miami as it does.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that the placement of that win, the placement of the game, the date of the game has to do with the ranking. And I don't know that I've ever heard anybody, Reese Davis or anyone, ask any committee members, even though we know what the answer is going to be, does it matter when these games are played? Does it matter that Miami beat Notre Dame in week 1 versus if they beat them last weekend? There's no question that it does to a certain extent. It just does. There's no way that they're ranking, if that game would have been played last weekend, that they're ranking Notre Dame at 10 and Miami at 18 if Miami just beat them last weekend. So it's
I remember hearing Mark, like they always remember what you do in November. I just remember that, like Brent Musburger saying that, like going into a big game.
Well, we were really dealing with AP voters who did next to no research at that point. So yeah, he's right about that for sure. Then at least we have metrics, and at least there's some level of accountability that somebody's got to at least face a microphone and talk. Back then, it was a total mystery.
And Mark, what do you think of that group of Big Ten teams? Do you think if one of them wins out, do you think they're definitely going to jump all those other teams?
Well, let me address this comment first, because these kind of comments drive me crazy. Notre Dame would have won if they would have played last weekend. I have all the respect in the world for anybody who wants to say that they think somebody would have won a game, etc. But we don't know that Notre Dame would have won if they would have played last weekend. It's just makes no sense to make that statement. All right. What about the 3 Big Ten teams?
Do you think that for sure they'll be in the playoff if they win out? Each of them win out?
I don't see how they're going to get in the playoff. how are they going to get there? So let's draw it up here. Notre Dame wins out. G5 gets in. Even if we go only one from the ACC, only one from the Big 12. So there's 4. We've got 8 spots left. Okay. I guess Georgia's in, Texas is in. I'm sorry. Georgia's in, Texas A&M's in, Alabama, Ole Miss. Should we agree on that? There's 4. And now we got 4 spots left. Ohio State, Indiana. Okay. Oregon has a loss. They play Iowa. They play USC. They play Minnesota, but let's forget that. They play Iowa. And here's the Big Ten's issue. The Big Ten's issue is that Iowa plays Oregon. Oregon plays USC. USC plays Iowa. So there's 3 losses right there divided among those 3 teams somehow, in some fashion.
If Michigan wins out, is that the way that Big Ten can get 4 in? If Michigan wins out and upsets Ohio State, do you think they can get 4 in that way?
Here's the best way for the Big Ten to get 4 in is Michigan wins out and wins the Big Ten championship game. And Oregon sweeps. So Oregon's 11. Yeah, well, there's your perfect formula is Michigan wins the Big Ten championship, and it doesn't matter who they beat. They're already in. And then Ohio State or Indy. Well, Ohio State would be out, but they're 11-1. They're in. I mean, out of the Big Ten championship game. And then, yeah, Oregon's also 11-1. There's your 4 team, but the chances of that,
not very high.
Not very high. David Greenshield's asking about 10-2 Oregon or 10-2 Notre Dame. And now they're 9-10. Well, Oregon's going to beef up its resume a lot better than Notre Dame.
Well, I'll say if Oregon loses to USC, that would Notre Dame would be ahead for sure, right?
Yeah, because David's throwing out Oregon losing another game, where Notre Dame obviously finishes with all wins, and right now they're at 9-10. So Oregon loses this weekend against Iowa, then they win the rest of their games. I think Notre Dame would finish ahead of them.
Unless if they just slaughter USC.
And Washington. And they got a game against Washington. So those are 2 good wins. That's a heck of a matchup there, a comparison.
I mean, I think there is a chance that Miami jumps Notre Dame if Miami just starts to play like they did at the beginning of the season and blows everyone out. But
who is that?
I mean, I do think there's a world where, like, if Miami starts playing like they did at the beginning of the season, there's a chance that they might bump Notre Dame, but I don't know. I just see them probably losing.
Really? How in the world are they going to make it up 8 spots? Miami's playing Syracuse and who else? They got 4
Virginia Tech, Pitt.
Virginia Tech, Pitt, and some other nobody. They just they're not playing anyone. They're not going to make 8 spots on Notre Dame. They both play Pitt. Okay. So those cancel each other out unless one beats them 50-0 and the other beats them by 1.
I mean, I just think the committee values so much eye test that's like maybe they would move them up, but maybe
8 spots. Who in the world could show them their rankings from 3 weeks earlier and say Notre Dame's 6-2, Miami 6-2. They both won their final 4 games. One of them was against the same team, and you raised them 8 spots based on beating Virginia Tech and Syracuse. Like, there's no way they're going to raise them. Matthew Miller's here with Oregon 10-2, Notre Dame 10-2, Texas 9-3. Texas lost in Columbus by a touchdown. They lost to Florida. That's a bad loss. They lose to Georgia by a field goal, or I'm sorry, they beat Georgia. They lose to Texas A&M by a field goal. Texas has wins against Georgia, Vandy, and Oklahoma. Those are definitely better wins.
Mhm. That's a tough one.
Texas looked bad against Kentucky.
Yeah, that's why I don't know if I can see that happening for Texas this big, but I'm maybe.
Yeah, Texas, like DeReal's reminding us here. So Texas would have wins against Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt.
Well, in
and
that hypothetical
Georgia.
that says they would lose to A&M though, in Matthew's
No,
hypothetical.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you people are getting me mixed up here. Yes. Yeah. So Texas, yeah, beats Georgia, Vandy, Oklahoma. Loses to Texas A&M, Florida, and Ohio State. Yeah, that Florida loss is
It's rough.
not good, not pretty. I think the Florida loss really kills them. What's Florida right now? 4-5?
Yeah, I think so.
It might be worse than that. They just lost to Georgia.
They are 3-5.
3-5. Yeah, I guess if they finish 7-5.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think the committee would do it but
Yeah, I don't think they would either. I think that Florida loss is just too much to overcome.
Michael Smith said Mizzou will beat A&M. Will Prabula come back, or do they just have confidence in the Missouri backup?
Yeah, is Missouri the lowest ranked team that can get an at-large spot? At 22. Let's look at Mizzou and Washington. So Mizzou has beaten really no one. Kansas and I think Auburn would be their two best wins. So Mizzou's got no wins, but their losses aren't bad. Lost by a touchdown to Vandy, lost by 3 to Bama. Who does Mizzou have left? They obviously play Arkansas at the end. Missouri's got
A&M, Mississippi State, Oklahoma,
Arkansas. So you rack up wins against Texas A&M, and even Mississippi State's a decent win. Oklahoma. And their best wins would be Texas A&M, then Oklahoma, then either Mississippi State or whoever. It doesn't really matter. Auburn. Yes, I think they could be the one SEC team that would not make it at 10-2. That seems a little weak, although the losses are not bad. Washington still obviously plays Oregon. And where's Washington? Washington's got Wisconsin, Purdue, UCLA, and Oregon. So those games don't help them until they get to Oregon. 10-2, win against Oregon, and Illinois is their second best win. See, I think Washington and Mizzou are in the same boat. I just think their wins are too little, too late.
I agree, Mark.
Yeah. And what's going to be crazy with these Big Ten and SEC teams is you could have all sorts of 10-2s that you've got head to heads against. Michigan beat Washington, USC beat Michigan. That brings in obviously Notre Dame beat USC. Who knows what's going to happen between Iowa, Oregon, and USC, and then all those teams at the top in the SEC that played each other. All right, Will. Anything else?
No, I appreciate you having me on, Mark. Happy with the Irish ranking.
There we go. Let's keep it rolling. We got Keith stopping by. Keith, what's going on? Hello, Keith. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How you doing, Mark?
Good.
Good.
How are you?
I'm doing good. Hang on a second. I just gotta sit down here. You're gonna hear a little bang, but yeah. So what it looks like to me, what they did with the rankings is they looked very much at the eye test about what are quality programs and which are lesser quality programs,
Okay.
and then they grouped them together.
Okay. As evidenced by what?
As evidenced by you still there? Oh,
Yes,
you blinked
I'm
out for a second.
Yep.
Okay, you blinked out for a second. You just went to a blank screen. Okay. The analytics, I believe, say Texas A&M's over Indiana and Ohio State, and Notre Dame is a few ranks above where they're supposed to be on the analytics. So it looks like they went very much by the eye test and got what they thought were the best quality programs that they could get, which is another word for the eye test.
Okay. Again, I'm not saying you're wrong or your opinion's not valid, but I'm just not following this eye test factor here. Like BYU's eye test, I don't think is too pretty. Yeah, I'm not getting the eye.
Well, I'm thinking that there's a threshold here. If they're going to put
like
teams
I think
in tier
Miami has
one,
a eye test quotient, but they're not getting ranked high.
you don't think BYU is as good a tier as Texas Tech or Notre Dame?
No, the point I'm making is I guess we've got to decide what an eye test means. To me, an eye test means that it's a pretty team, that it's a talented team, and so they'll give the eye test to a talented team.
I'm saying the eye test is watching the games and seeing which teams look good according to the eye test.
Exactly, which is completely subjective.
Which is completely subjective, but all that does is that puts a tier up there. That's why a 7-2 Texas gets more credit than 8-1 Virginia. Okay, so
No. They're going with 7-2 Texas because their schedule is so much more difficult than Virginia's.
That's do you know that, or would you say that's an opinion?
No, it's not an opinion. Texas, Keith, Texas has played Ohio State, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Florida. Okay. Virginia's played Louisville. Yeah, they've played Louisville. I don't know who else to name that's any good that's over 500.
Well,
nobody.
Well, Virginia, to be fair to Virginia,
yeah,
if we'd have done this a week ago, they would have been 8-0, and they looked like one of the.
Whoa! If Virginia what?
Virginia was 8-0 last week. They lost last week, right?
No, they did not lose last week. They lost like a month ago, more
A
than a month.
month ago.
They
Okay.
lost
I thought,
early in the season to NC State.
oh, you know what? I was looking at their, did they lose in conference or out of conference?
They lost to an in-conference team out of conference, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, because everybody jumps around so much these days. What would that be?
That's not what it means. They lost to a ACC team, but it's not a conference game. It was scheduled as a non-conference game.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So yeah, all right then.
Did Virginia play Ohio State? Did Virginia play Oklahoma? Did Virginia play Vanderbilt? Did Virginia play and then it's only going to get more egregious from there. Is Virginia going to play Texas A&M and Georgia? Like to compare their schedule to Texas's schedule.
Didn't Mississippi State? Who did Mississippi State take to overtime?
Tennessee and Texas.
Texas. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Texas took Mississippi State, that's supposed to be the bottom of the SEC, into overtimes.
Yeah. And the bottom of the SEC beat Arizona State.
Sure.
Yeah.
Again, if we want to go with the transitive stuff, I'm just saying that
I'm going transitive stuff. That's a direct game. The bottom team in the I didn't go there were no transitive properties there at all. The bottom team in the SEC, Mississippi State beat Arizona State. And if we would go through Arizona State's resume, we would see that they're not going to win the Big 12, but they are competitive with everyone. They beat Texas Tech head to head.
Texas Tech.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Who beat Texas Tech?
Arizona State.
Arizona State beat Texas Tech. That's Texas Tech's only loss, huh?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, it's but it looks to me like they've got their own eye test standard, which I think I can see is that I can see their reasoning. You know what? I think BYU was the undefeated team. Why they're 7? I was thinking of yeah, that and then they group all the zeros together at the top, although there's one loss that puts in there. Then all the ones go down together in the top 11, that is. And then the 2 losses at the bottom, judgments are made. Like a lot of people are saying, I don't know if Notre Dame should be there, but unfortunately, Notre Dame has street cred with the committee, I think, and by their own standards, Notre Dame's got a better chance to get in.
Yeah, I believe that Notre Dame's too high based on resume.
I'd say most of people do. I'd say pretty close to 80-90% think they're too high, but the powers that be, they sure like that emblem on the side of the helmet.
Yeah, Notre Dame lost 2 extremely close games. I think they're also weighing that in. Notre Dame lost to the number 3 team in the country, and well, now Miami is sunk. You know, if Notre Dame had lost to Miami and then Miami had continued this strong season that they were playing as of a couple weeks ago, then I could more see the justification of Notre Dame being ranked that high, but Miami's fallen on their faces. So that loss has to be more damaging, or should be, to Notre Dame.
But doesn't Notre Dame look Indiana-esque in the last 6 games that they won? They beat them pretty handily, haven't they?
Sure, they have. Yeah. Notre Dame, let's see. Well, they did not look good last weekend against Boston College.
No, that's right. They fell against Boston College.
They beat Purdue by 26. They beat Arkansas by 43. Boise State by 21. NC State by 29. They beat USC by 10. That's their best win, USC.
Yeah. So yeah, but that's my 2 cents. Is I think they're going very much by the eye test. They're putting these teams into tiers and then grouping them by victories. And I'm hoping my guys each week can pick up a couple of spots by people losing in front of them.
Yeah.
And then by the game, we're about maybe in the best case 13th or 14th.
Okay.
And when we beat you, we'll be in.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you win that game, you could be playing then in the Big Ten championship game.
I think that's a long shot because
Why is that a long shot?
because we need USC to lose another game. If USC is
USC is playing Iowa, they're playing Oregon. I don't know that that's a long shot.
That's not a long that's not a long shot. Yeah, but what about Iowa? Iowa, how many conference losses right now?
One.
So, and I guess Iowa has tiebreakers over Michigan and Conference Froze record, right?
Well, Iowa's going to have to play Oregon and play Nebraska and play USC.
Yeah. See, so to get in the championship game, we need help from USC and Iowa to get in the championship game, even if we can beat you guys.
Okay. Well, they're playing each other, so one of them's going to lose that game.
Yes. So then it's just the other two that we have to worry. And what about Oregon still? Oregon still got one loss, right?
Yes.
So Oregon would have to lose again too. Now, who do they play? They play Washington. Washington, anybody else?
Oregon doesn't have to lose again. They would have the same Big Ten record as Michigan.
Oregon is 7-1 right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so they have to lose one.
No, they don't.
Oh, no, because
not necessarily.
We would be a tiebreakers with them because we would have one and they would have one, right? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
So they could win out, and then I don't know how the tiebreakers work between Oregon and Michigan.
Yeah, if those are the only two teams involved, it would involve common opponents. That's how it usually starts.
But that's why I'm saying, even if we beat you, it's a long shot because we need 3 other teams to lose along the way. 3, and I might be missing another one. But we need a lot of help to get into the game, even if we can beat you guys.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's a lot of help, but again, Oregon plays USC, Oregon plays Iowa, Iowa plays USC. There's going to be a lot of carnage there.
Yeah.
It's going to help.
And
Oregon plays Washington.
That's true too.
Iowa plays Nebraska.
And Washington, and then I believe they have to play in Washington, and Washington has owned the last 5 to 10 years, owned Oregon in Washington.
They have?
I believe so. Under DeBoer, they did. Under DeBoer, I don't know if Lanning ever beat DeBoer.
Lanning lost both games that they coached against in 23 in both the regular season and the conference championship game.
Okay, so DeBoer was only there 1 year then?
Well, no. So Lanning's first year was 22, and I'd have to go back, but I believe he lost to DeBoer. I don't know. They both went 10-2. No. Lanning's Oregon team went 9-3 in the regular season, and DeBoer was 10-2 at Washington. I don't remember who won the game.
They had to beat him 2 or 3 years in a row because Washington had the longest home win in football there for a while, and they lost it.
Okay, they only played against each other for 2 years,
right?
And they played in Oregon in 23, so they only played in Seattle one time.
Yeah, but to Washington and Oregon, that's big. That's the big is the game between us and Ohio State to them up
Sure.
there.
Yep.
And they throw the record books out in that game too. And
Yeah,
Washington
that
Washington
that
could
phrase
be.
drives me crazy right there.
Oh, does it?
Throw out the record books. You don't throw out the record books because the better team wins on this theory that people have that you just throw out the record books. One team could be 10-0 and the other team could be 1-9. It doesn't matter. Yes, it does matter. The better team, the team with the better record in the Ohio State Michigan game almost always wins.
Okay, and so Mark,
We could go through every year.
the same climb that I have for Michigan that gets us into the playoffs and
Yes.
maybe gets us into the championship game probably applies to every other one conference loss team in the Big Ten. If they win all their games up to the end of the season, they've got a chance to squeeze into the playoffs and squeeze into the championship game.
Oh, sure, they have a chance.
Yeah.
The Big Ten has a problem in that Michigan, okay, if they get matched up, let's say in a 10-2 versus 10-2 duel against USC, well, I don't know how the committee is going to pick Michigan because USC won the game head-to-head. But USC's got a problem with Notre Dame, where they got blasted by Notre Dame. So the Big Ten kind of screwed itself by losing these non-conference games. There are 3 big non-conference games that the Big Ten lost that is putting them in a poor position right now. And that's why these teams are ranked 19, 20, and 21. They all lost their big non-conference game.
So let's play another mental game here. Instead of losing, say Michigan and USC and who else?
Washington.
Iowa lost.
4 of them there.
Instead of losing their non-conference game, if they didn't lose their conference game, say they win the conference game, but they still lost that interconference game, do they still jump up to 6, 7, and 8 as one-loss Big Ten teams?
Well, who do they lose them to?
The non-conference games, Michigan, Oklahoma.
Well, they did lose them.
We did lose them.
That's my point.
You say if we wouldn't have lost those, we would have been 6, 7, and 8.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
What if we didn't lose our one conference game and we only had one loss and it was out of conference?
Oh,
would
so
we still move up? Would we still move up to 6, 7, and 8?
Well, first of all, Michigan would have beaten USC. Okay.
Right.
USC would have beaten Illinois and Iowa would have beaten Indiana. Well, sure as heck, Iowa would have skyrocketed if they beat Indiana. They'd be 7-1 with an out-of-conference loss, not a great one against Iowa State, but still on the last play of the game. So USC would be 7-1. They'd only have a loss to Notre Dame, and Michigan would be 7-1 with only a loss to Oklahoma. Yeah, those teams would be. Yeah, they'd be.
Yeah.
Sure.
6, 7, and 8, same spots.
Well, roughly.
Roughly, yeah.
It's a different evaluation. It's a different, Iowa.
But my point is, the loss itself is more important whether it was in conference than out of conference.
The point that I'm making is that when you compare the teams that are on the bubble for the Big Ten, Iowa, Michigan, USC in particular, compared to their counterparts in the SEC, those teams generally won their out-of-conference games, their big non-conference game. That makes the SEC look better. It rates it as a stronger league because they won their non-conference games, whereas it hurts the Big Ten because their main teams, I'm not talking about Ohio State because they're easily in, but the teams on the bubble lost their non-conference games. If Michigan, Iowa, and USC don't make the playoffs and they're 10-2, they can only blame themselves for losing non-conference games and being compared to SEC teams that had the same record, but they won their out-of-conference games.
With the same record, I agree. Is that if we go to the same record, a 10-2 Michigan against a 10-2 Oklahoma, head-to-head loss, out of conference records, they should pick Oklahoma over Michigan. The world might be surprised again, and they pick Michigan because of the label. But
wait a second, what's your scenario? Michigan against Oklahoma?
Yeah, Michigan 10-2, Oklahoma 10-2.
Oh, no. Not only did Oklahoma win that game and win it decisively, Oklahoma has a far better schedule than Michigan. It's not even close. No. And Michigan doesn't necessarily have a better label than Oklahoma. Like, let's even forget that argument. Michigan is not getting in over Oklahoma with the same record. In fact, Oklahoma may get selected at 9-3 over Michigan at 10-2.
Yeah, I don't see that. I see as wins.
I don't care what you see or don't see, Keith. I'm telling you what the situation is.
Did that happen last year?
We did not have that same scenario last year.
We had 9-3, 9-3.
They were not compared to 10-2 teams that they beat.
Not that they beat, no.
No, and that they weren't being compared to 10-2 teams. No,
because Indiana was 11-1.
Yes.
Oregon was 12-0, right?
Yes, they were not being compared to 10-2.
Oklahoma Ohio State was 11-1.
The argument was you had Alabama, South Carolina, and Ole Miss at 9-3. You had Miami at 10-2. You had Iowa State, who lost the Big 12 championship game at 10-3. You had SMU, who lost the ACC championship game at 11-2. You had BYU at 10-2. So they did not elevate those SEC teams past teams with 2 losses, but they did not play those teams and beat those teams.
Granted, is that Michigan against Oklahoma would be a no-brainer. But I'm still saying that if you win games, you will get in.
Okay. That might be the most poignant comment of the night. Did everybody get that one? If you win games, you will get in.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, Keith, you got to be in the top. You got to be in the top 25 to start with. But if you win the rest of your game from this point, you got to be in
the top 25 to start what?
The top 25 at this point. If you win the rest of your games, you've got a real good chance, 80-90% chance of getting in.
Okay. With that, Keith.
Yeah.
We will talk soon.
All right. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Keith. Okay. Let me see if I got this straight. If you win games, you've got a chance to get into the playoff. Can somebody explain that to me? Not if you lose the game. If you win the games. If you win the games, man, I'm going to be thinking about that all night, trying to figure that one out. If you win games, then you got a chance to make the playoffs. What happens if you lose games? Do you not have a chance? All right, Stephen. I don't know if you're addressing this SEC propaganda comment to me. I'm just letting you know what happened when Michigan, Iowa, and USC went outside the conference. Everybody, or typically everyone, schedules one big non-conference game, okay, against a power conference opponent. Well, the SEC in those games are 12-4. And the Big Ten in those games are 6-8. And those 3 in particular, I'm looking at them right there. USC 19, Iowa 20, Michigan 21. The committee's basically got them ranked almost exactly where I've got those three ranked. USC lost to Notre Dame. Iowa lost to Iowa State. Michigan lost to Oklahoma. That's where they screwed themselves. Otherwise, 7-1, 8-1, USC, Iowa, Michigan, they would be ranked in the 8 to 10 range, 7 to 10 range. But they're not, because they lost the games, and that's not SEC propaganda. Those are facts. When you come here, we talk facts, we lay it out as it is. Sorry, Big Ten, don't lose to count. Dude, let's play this exercise. What is the best Big Ten out of conference win this year? Well, it's not even close. Ohio State beat Texas. That's the best win by far. There's not a second best win, practically. What is the second? Oh, whoa. Here's a new one to the, oh, you can't count the Iowa game because that's a rivalry game. So you don't count it. So we don't count rivalry games. Somebody get that piece of information, that brilliance, that piece of genius. Let's get that to the committee. You can't count rivalry games. Oh, I'm going to remember that the next time Ohio State loses to Michigan. I'm going to sit up here and say, you can't count rivalry games. They don't count. What are we doing here if we're not counting games? Yes, they played the freaking game. You count the game. That is the biggest piece of stupidity I think I've seen here. And I see a lot of it on a regular basis. But that might be the most. Bilal, I love that you're here. I hope you keep coming back. And you may want to shut your ears for about 10 seconds because that is the biggest piece of complete moronic crap that I think I've ever seen posted. You don't count rivalry games. They don't count. Good Lord. Wow. Some of you people, I hope I don't have to face you anywhere in the real world, like doing like real world reasonable tasks like accounting or any kind of business dealings. Who knows what doesn't get counted, what does get counted. It rained that day, that doesn't count, or, oh my word, it doesn't count. The game doesn't count. Somebody get Kirk Ferentz on the phone because they're suddenly, 6-1. The game didn't count. All right. Rob's coming back. Rob, how you doing?
Hey, Mark, how you doing? Can you hear me better this time?
I can.
Awesome. Okay. So one thing I wanted to address real quick, since the real won't answer me in the chat, I was not saying earlier that Notre Dame deserved their ranking at all. In fact, there was many times that I was putting in the chat that I said, I'm not defending their ranking, but I said I was giving reasons why I thought the committee put them there, right? Like their recent surge of late defensively, especially the way they've been beating teams, fairly quality teams, like just the way they looked at eye tests, CJ Carr being one of the top 4 rated passers in the country efficiency wise. I mean, just there's a lot of things that go into this. And I was not saying this is why I think Notre Dame deserves to be there, but I was saying that this is why I think the committee put them there. Plus, we also have to look at, it's very unfortunate. And this happens not just for Notre Dame, but other teams as well. The committee tends to reward teams for losing earlier in the season than later in the season. So obviously you had to kind of look at the way Notre Dame lost their 2 games early. Now they should have dropped out of the top 25 and they didn't when they were 0-2. And I was even calling for that as a Notre Dame fan, but the committee, or not the committee, but the AP kept Notre Dame. I think they were like 23 or something like that. And Miami, however, all Notre Dame did after that was they climbed up the AP rankings. Just week after week, they kept climbing and climbing. And Miami just has been faltering and faltering. So it's kind of an unfortunate thing for Miami that they're kind of struggling in November again under Mario Cristobal. and Notre Dame is surging again under Marcus Freeman. And I'm not saying Notre Dame deserves to be in the top 10. I do think they are a top 10 caliber team. Eye test wise and some of the advanced analytics and, FPI numbers and all this kind of stuff, if you look at that recently. But if we're just going off of deserve, then no, Notre Dame doesn't deserve to be in the top 10. And I can say that as a Notre Dame fan. Now, what I was also saying in the chat earlier, I was telling Daryl that Notre Dame is very likely to be in the playoff when it's all said and done. I said, whether you like it or not, if you're a Notre Dame hater, if you love Notre Dame, whatever, they're probably going to be there. I think it would take them, obviously, if they lose another game, they're gone. And if they have more games like that Boston College game last week, then they're probably going to drop as well. I mean, I think if you remember our conversation after that game, I said Notre Dame should drop a point, for their performance. I think the only thing that saved them from dropping was other teams were struggling and losing too. Like two top 10 teams lost that week. Georgia looked rough once again against Florida, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that kind of helped Notre Dame. But yeah, that was not a good performance against a 1-7 Boston College team. Aside from all that, Mark, I think that I like the rankings pretty well. I'm very happy to see Washington and Iowa ranked as they deserve to be. I think those are two pretty good teams. I don't really have a lot of problems with the rankings otherwise.
The only issue Notre Dame could have here would be that we're going to have upsets, obviously, but it's possible that all the teams in front of them could hold where they are. Like, they're not playing each other. Like, those teams are not playing each other. Ohio State could stay obviously ahead, and Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. I'm not saying that they're going to, that there's not some surprising upsets awaiting, but even BYU and Texas Tech, there's a formula there where they could kind of sit where they're at if, let's say, BYU goes undefeated, but Texas Tech beats them in the conference championship game and it all kind of settles out, or whatever. Even if you eliminate one of those teams and knock them behind Notre Dame, and then Oregon finishes out 11-1. Whereas Texas and Oklahoma have an opportunity with the teams that they play to elevate. Like, I don't know how you don't pass. Like, I've got Texas and Oklahoma ranked ahead of Notre Dame anyway, but I don't know how you don't advance them if Texas can beat the likes of Georgia and Texas A&M, and Oklahoma can win games against the likes of Missouri and LSU. They got Alabama as well. So it's kind of unlikely to see that they're going to sweep that. But if they did, oh my word, they should skyrocket.
If Texas wins all, like, the rest of their games, including wins over A&M and Georgia, then they should pass Notre Dame. Absolutely. And I wouldn't have a problem with that in the slightest. See, that's the thing, Mark. It's called being objective. And again, like I said, yes, I'm a Notre Dame fan, but I'm also going to be okay with people having an issue with where they're ranked right now. All I've been saying is it's very obvious if you look at the past that Notre Dame Keith might have said some things here and there that you may not have agreed with, but I think we can agree that Notre Dame has a lot of pull in the sport, in the committee. They've rewarded them in the past. And, I think if they didn't want, because they could have ranked Notre Dame anywhere, right? They don't have to go off the AP. So if they didn't want to give Notre Dame a chance to get into the playoffs, they would have had them outside the top 12, not in the top 10 for sure. So that's all I'm saying, Mark. They're not a lock. They're not a lock to finish in the top 10, but it's likely. I mean, it's fairly likely. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not sweating it if they don't make the playoffs. And hey, as I've always said this year on the calls that we've had, I'm not going to be upset because Notre Dame squandered their chance to control their own destiny in the first 2 weeks.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on, how about Texas, huh? I mean, do you think that you've seen a team, like, they started the year number 1, dropped all the way out of the top 25, and now have come all the way back to, 11 in the CFP rankings? I mean, that's one of the wildest rides I've seen in a while.
Yeah, it sure is. And with the schedule that they've got ahead, they're either going to finish with an ugly record or they're going to really look strong and be a playoff team, because they've got the opportunity with those two games. I don't know who their other SEC game is that's left, but with Texas A&M and Georgia, wow.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Here's what I say, Mark. I don't see Texas. In my opinion, they're definitely not winning out. And honestly, I don't see them beating Georgia or A&M. So we'll see. We'll see when it's all said and done. They've got a tough schedule.
I certainly think if Florida can take Georgia to the wire, that Texas can beat Georgia.
Well, Florida took Georgia to the wire, but Georgia won, and they looked like Florida just kind of bullied Texas. I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I think Texas could beat Georgia, but they had 2 chances last year. And a different team. A lot of talent went to the NFL for Texas. I get it, but I mean, Texas just seems to have this kind of big game problem lately. I'm not kind of making a correlation with Penn State or anything, but I don't know. I think Georgia. We'll see. I want to see Texas actually beat Georgia before I give them that chance to do it.
Yep, I am with you. All right, Rob. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, Mark. Always fun talking to you.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks. Yeah. The thing is that it's not that I don't think Notre Dame is that good. It's that I don't think that they've earned that ranking. But I don't think it's that far off. But this being the case, it doesn't have to be off by much. 1 or 2 spots is going to make all the difference in the world, obviously, for a couple teams. All right, we're going to have to fire through rapid fire. The last couple were way over, so give us your best 60 seconds.
There we go.
David, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Mark?
Good.
All right. So I do think, there is a path here for Notre Dame to get in. As I put into the chat, I do think a 10-2 Oregon versus a 10-2 Notre Dame would be an interesting dynamic.
Yep.
I do think that Texas, path is a 9-3 is doable. But let me ask you this. Okay, so they lose to Georgia, but then they beat an undefeated Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
So if they've beaten an undefeated Texas A&M, they've beaten Oklahoma, and then they've beaten Vanderbilt.
Yep.
And those quality wins. See, that's the dynamic I think that becomes tough for Notre Dame. The other thing that becomes tough for Notre Dame is if the ACC were to get 2 teams or the Big 12 were to get 2 teams. Then I think it's ball game.
Yeah, and I think the ACC kind of played themselves out of this past weekend with Georgia Tech and Miami losing.
Yes.
Pretty much. You can still thread a needle. Like Louisville wins the rest of their games, doesn't make the ACC championship game, and just sits on the sideline at 11-1, and then whoever wins the ACC title gets in too. That could be a possibility there. 11-1 Louisville is an at-large, or in the Big 12 again, the scenario we drew up the other night where BYU goes undefeated, loses the Big 12 championship, and you get 2 from the Big 12. Now, if both of those happen at the same time, then you're taking up 4 spots for these 2 conferences, and then it really gets difficult.
Well, their path would be quite simply because if you go big SEC gets 4, Big 10. Now they might be able to. Well, would they be able to get in if the Big 10 gets 3, or does that become a more narrow path too? If the ACC only gets 1, and then the Big 12 only gets 1, so that's. Go ahead.
Yeah, those 2. And then Notre Dame G5, that's 4.
Right.
So there's still 8 left.
Well, yeah. Well, 7 spots would be SEC and Big 10, and then Big 12, and then ACC would give you 8, 9. So yeah, I guess there would be a path for them to get there at that point.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean I wouldn't despair too much if I was them. I still think it's very, very plausible here right now for them to be, and I think Oregon might be a little bit more fraudulent than people think they are. I think Oregon, I'm really interested to see that game at Iowa could be very interesting. I know we're not necessarily buying Iowa's offenses to improve. You went over the stats the other night, but that's going to be interesting. I just think there's a real good chance they split either Iowa or they split USC.
Yeah, then they're 10-2, and then we've got a crazy comparison between Notre Dame and, like you say, Notre Dame and Oregon, and then throw in maybe a 9-3 Texas or somebody 9-3 in the SEC, Oklahoma.
Right. See, what would help them? I mean, if they beat, let's say, a decent 9-3 Washington team, I think that kind of helps their cause a little bit. That could be maybe a little data point at the end. If you've got, let's say, a solid 9-2 Washington that's inside the top 25, that could be a final data point there that could be really helpful.
Yeah, right now, Oregon is, I guess they're ranked. I guess they're ranked appropriately. I was going to go off on them a little bit, but they're basically in the back of the SEC Big Ten line of one-loss teams. So they're fine, but they have no wins right now. 0.
Okay.
Am I missing anyone?
No. I mean,
0 wins. So
right.
they're going to have, if they lose a game, obviously if they're 11-1, doesn't matter who they beat. They can be Indiana from last year. But if they trip up against Iowa this weekend, yeah, it's USC and Washington, and USC's probably, well, if they beat USC, that's a third loss for USC. It's 9-3, 8-4 USC, and it's 9-3, 8-4 Washington. Those are their 2 wins.
Yeah, I actually think there's a chance that Oregon could go 9-3. That of those last 3 games, they could lose 2 out of 3.
Then they're done.
Then they're totally cooked.
They're not going to make it.
Yeah, 10-2 is even borderline. Very,
yes.
I think even very borderline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think right now for the SEC, I think it's 4. I think the case can't, but the Texas case is to split the 2 big games and then take your chances with a 9-3 and just say our quality wins. But that Florida loss just hangs out there like a sore thumb for Texas.
Yeah, and Oklahoma doesn't have one of those. Let's see. Oklahoma lost to Ole Miss by a score, and they lost to Texas by 17. Let's say Oklahoma loses to Bama. They still have to play Bama, right?
Right. They got Bama, and then Oklahoma doesn't have A&M, do they?
They got Missouri and LSU.
Missouri and LSU. Okay.
So
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, there are games that they're probably going to be slightly favored, and they're going to be decent wins. They're not going to be like, big boost wins, but they're respectable wins. I think that the key for Oklahoma, let's say obviously if they win, they're in. They go 10-2.
They win out, sure,
with 3 more wins like that. But let's say they lose to Bama. I think a huge key for them is looking good in that game. They lose a 28-24 game to Bama on the road.
What if they beat Bama and lose to Missouri?
Yeah, that's what's funny about these scenarios is that do you take the really good win against the worst loss, or you take the win you're supposed to have and then lose to the good team but lose pretty? Like, which is better? I can't answer that question. I think none of these teams we're talking about can lose egregiously. Like, who has the worst loss, either when you're talking about on the scoreboard or to a bad team Alabama lost to Florida State by 2 touchdowns.
Right, yeah, that's the worst. I mean, Texas Tech losing to Arizona State really wasn't,
Yeah, they lost by 4. They lost on the road. They didn't have their quarterback.
Texas's loss to Florida was not real good because they lost to a team that fired their coach. You know what I mean?
There's the next one. They lost to a 5-loss Florida team by only 1 score. But if you watch that game,
it really wasn't terrible. 1 score, Mark.
Yeah, Yeah, so those are the worst losses by teams in the top 12.
Yeah, I see it. Right, that's going to be interesting to see. The SEC, do they have that 9-3 team, Oklahoma or Texas, that could get a big data point win that might still make a case for them to get in? Going to be interesting to see. That's their case to get a fifth team. They're not getting 6 teams. I think their best case is to get 5 teams, in my view. Right now,
Yeah.
sitting at 4. That's their best case to get 5.
Oklahoma's got the best resume.
Well, yeah,
Oklahoma
that's true.
played a tougher schedule than Texas.
Well,
But what I was going to add to that is obviously
head to head.
if both of them lose a game and they're both sitting there at 9-3, then you obviously have to take Texas.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, last thing before I let you go, I know you got to run tonight. You've been burning the midnight oil here tonight, but can I push back one thing? You were, I don't know if you challenged Mr. Dace on this. You were on the insane asylum today,
Yep.
and I wanted to say, did he really say Ohio State doesn't have as good a football team as they had last year? Because I beg to differ.
He said from a talent standpoint.
Okay.
That's what I heard coming out of his mouth in terms of lining up NFL talent.
I would push back on that. I think they're going to have at least 4 first-round picks, 3 top 10 picks, and this team has a much better quarterback than they do a year ago. I agree. The running game isn't as dominant without Judkins and without Henderson, but it's the best back 7 in the country. They're better at linebacker, they're better at secondary, and they're better at quarterback. They may not be as good on D-line, they may not be as good at linebacker, but I think those other things would take over. I've just something that I would have pushed back on maybe a little bit today if I was on, but
our Michigan fans, Ralph, Mike Ford, there might be another one in there.
Throw them at me.
They're highly reliable.
Okay, yeah, highly reliable
when it comes to Ohio State evaluations.
Yes, non-biased.
They all say last year's team was better.
Okay, well, all right. I mean, I just ran it down to you. We have better linebackers. We have a better secondary. I think Tate is better than Emeka. And I think we're far better at quarterbacks. Julian Sain will play in the NFL. Probably a good chance he might start in the NFL. Will Howard will hold the clipboard for the rest of his life. And I don't even think that's close. So where am I going wrong on any of those assessments? And we will have 4 first-round draft picks, and we'll have 3 guys go in the top 10 of the draft in Tate, Reese, and Downs.
Yeah. And I'd say the tight end room's deeper.
Right. I agree we're not as good at running back. I agree we're not as without Judkins and Henderson. But
all right, Dave.
All right, my man. And we'll get back together later this week, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right. We got Luke going to take us home. Luke, what's going on?
Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
All right. I want to talk about, so the rankings came out today. Do you think there's any teams that got left out?
Completely out of the rankings?
Yeah, like out that you thought should be in.
That's a great question. Well, I do my rankings. And so I think I've only got one team that, so I've obviously got teams ranked differently than they do within the top 25, but the only team that I have ranked in place of Tennessee is Cincinnati.
Right. Do you think a team like Memphis should have been ranked or should be ranked?
No.
No,
I don't think the group of 5. I think a group of 5 team needs to do something remarkable to get ranked. I just think you're just talking about highly different levels of play. Just do this every year. Look at all the group of 5 scores against the Power 5 scores. Just look at the results. So here's the first thing, Luke. This happens every year. It's like clockwork. It's like when I say there are 5 upsets every week in the power conferences. This you can take to the bank as well. The winning percentage for the group of 5 against the Power 5 is going to be about 8 to 12%. They're going to lose like 90 or 92% of the games. That's number one. Number two, you can take all the conference champions from the group of 5 and look at their results against the power conferences. They're abysmal. every year. They're abysmal. They go like 3, and I'm talking against, mid to lower level power conference teams.
Right.
They just usually have horrendous records. Memphis Memphis beat Arkansas. Okay. They beat them by a point. They needed a goal line fumble. Tulane beat Duke. There's your big game. There's your big win right there. South Florida beat Florida. San Diego State beat Cal. That's the best we're doing.
There's really none other than that. And the Memphis loss to UAB really hurt them.
Yes, exactly. So
because UAB is a bottom 4 team in the American Conference, and then them losing, even though they beat USF last week, means.
Yeah,
but
no,
and the other thing I wanted to say is, it is pathetic what YouTube TV and Disney have done. I had to watch games on FS1 and Fox, and there was like, I don't know, 30 some games that were on ESPN that I couldn't watch.
Yep.
And it's just like, why do they do that? Especially in the middle of the college football season, and college basketball started yesterday. So there's both. It's pathetic.
Yes. You're right in my wheelhouse here, because it's despicable. It's unethical. It's truly the lowest of the low when it comes to anything outside of the real world, when we talk about like physically hurting people or anything. But in terms of business to customers, it's the worst of the worst. The average person has no way to know when they sign up for YouTube TV when the college football contract runs out. It's not like they're given a heads up. Well, we'll let you know. Like if I'm signing up for YouTube TV in the middle of June because I'm thinking, college football is coming up, that they let me know, you know what? On November 1st, there's a contract that's running out between YouTube TV and Disney. So just to let you know, we could have an interruption in the college football season. Of course, none of us have any knowledge of that. So it's despicable that they sign a contract between Disney and YouTube TV, knowing that contract is going to be disputed right in the middle of the college football season. There's nothing that says that you have to make a contract right on the year, 1 year, 2 years, 3, that they can't make a contract that runs out at the conclusion of the college football season. It's just, and I only say that, and I know other people love other sports and it could run out at any time in the middle of other seasons, but I only say that because that is ESPN and Disney's number one sports commodity.
Right.
And that's the reason I say that. I just think that's completely despicable, and it blackmails the customer. And like you, I didn't know anything about it until that morning.
Yeah, no, I had no clue. I had no clue about it until Friday night when my friend called me and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, YouTube TV's all blacked out." And I looked at it and ESPN is gone. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like games started in the morning tomorrow, and like 13 of the top 25 teams were playing.
If I feel like wasting my time, I'm going to call YouTube TV and I'm going to say, okay, what is my compensation for what I didn't get to see? Because this is the only reason I get this, is so I can see college football games. And you're taking away like 75% of the inventory.
Right. And what I heard is so Google said that if they have an outage for a long period of time, they're going to give all YouTube TV subscribers a $20 credit to do whatever they want with it. I'm like, I don't want $20. I want ESPN back. Like they're just, they're trying to like, it's pathetic.
I wish I had a larger platform and could raise more of a ruckus that people would hear me. I would go nuts. I did post a short that I ranted and raved and talked about how despicable Disney is as much as I possibly could. But, I can only reach so many people. But
it's ridiculous.
Disgusting. It is truly disgusting that they treat it reminds me of so many days at ESPN when I was there, and ESPN would be having some fight with Time Warner or Cox Cable or whatever. And we'd have to fire up an extra control room and just run a crawl that basically was nothing but a bunch of propaganda that would send to Time Warner customers to basically say, we would like to provide our regular ESPN programming to you. You need to call such and such. Time Warner refuses to negotiate with us. Some stupid propaganda that is completely false and one-sided, and it's pathetic. Yes.
Yeah, it's pathetic. But that's all I wanted to talk about, and have a good night.
Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh boy, don't get me started on some of the despicable dealings there at the Worldwide Leader. A lot of great people work there. I worked with tremendous people. I also reported to a few louses, reported to a lot of great people, a lot of amazing people. But yeah, and unfortunately, the people that run the show, based on my latter experiences there, are completely despicable and unethical and backstabbers. So that's who they are. All right, everyone, we appreciate you. On that note, we appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. And of course, we're going to be back here at, you know what? Shoot, I just forgot something that kind of messed me up for tonight, but that's fine. We will do that. And we will see you back here on Wednesday night. I've got the Buckeye Show at 11 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday. That's the next time I will be on. Again, the Buckeyes live show. We also have Miami and Florida State and the late night show on Wednesday. Thanks for being here.